All right, we are finally back for a very special episode of the Tom and the Wolverine MMA show. I'm the Wolverine. You can't see Tom because he's audio only. Say hi, Tom.
Hey there, I'm still here.
All right, so we had some technical difficulties last time. We're going to do today's show. Tom's going to be audio only. We're doing a show basically today to have a little debate about the whole situation with Rajah Jackson, Rampage Jackson's son, and pro wrestler Syko Stu. Um, I don't. We're gonna have a little bit of a debate about it. I don't know if I'm really in disagreement with anything Tom's gonna say. Um, we've been chatting back and forth on text about this for a little while today. Uh, Mainly, my thing is, yes, I'm not saying that Rajah Jackson should not face consequences for what he did. I'm not justifying in any way what he did. What he did was horrible. But I do think that there are extenuating circumstances, and I do wonder if the whole concussion didn't somehow contribute to what happened. I know I've had three concussions in my life. I've never had concussion symptoms days after taking a blow to the head. He says in the video when he was live streaming that he was still having concussion symptoms the morning of this wrestling event, and throwing up, and his head still hurt really bad, and he felt really messed up. Um, where I'm coming at in this whole thing is um, I feel like I'm saying, that there were extenuating circumstances from the concussion. Plus, I do feel like the people around him instigated a lot of what happened. Not that that takes any responsibility off of him. I'm just saying, man, people need to choose their friends more wisely. Especially the guy that got him to go to this event. I believe his name was Andre. He was one of the pro wrestlers participating, and I guess he's a workout partner of Raj's from the gym. That guy, not a good friend, man. I feel like, had it not been for a lot of the things he said and did, I don't feel like Rajah Jackson went to this event to assault somebody. Um, but what would you like to say about the situation, Tom?
Oh, thank you. Okay, first thing is when you said you've had three concussions, my first question would be, how do you know, you know, to get that, how do you know you had three concussions? Because I believe I've had probably more than that, but we don't really know. Like, how do you know you ever had a concussion? How bad was it? And how do we know? Like, how was it diagnosed exactly,
Yeah.
or was it
So
diagnosed? Because mine weren't.
mine, yeah, I would say I considered them concussions because I had memory loss afterwards, and like didn't know what was going on for a period of time after. The one time was, I mean, roughly 3 hours, the time that happened at the gym during a rough sparring session. Uh, I was able to do a lot of things, while I was concussed and didn't really comprehend and remember what was happening around me. Um, uh, the previous one, when I was younger, I had a concussion with memory loss on a four-wheeler accident, and I hit my head, and that was probably maybe 30 minutes of not knowing what was going on around me and not having a real concept of, you know, I was kind of in my own world for a little while there. I was riding a four-wheeler through the desert, thinking that I had had a conversation with my dad that I had not had, and thinking I was going to meet him somewhere when he finally caught up with me and told me to stop and follow him back to the truck. Uh, but I mean, on the way home, I came out of it and I remembered what day it was and everything else. The one at the gym, like I said, that lasted about 3 hours, and for about 3 hours, I didn't really know anything about my life. I was able to continue sparring because I actually got hit with a shot in the opening seconds of the first round of this sparring session. Everybody said my knees buckled. They asked me if I was okay. I said I was, and I just continued sparring, and we sparred for another round and a half, and I guess it was pretty competitive. I didn't remember any of it afterwards, but I guess I had actually head kicked my training partner at one point. I got his back and almost choked him at one point. We were up and down on the ground, and everybody thought I was fine because, like, I was still, competitive in this sparring match, even though I couldn't remember any of it. And you know what? That would have been my third concussion. It was the second one was in an actual pro MMA fight up in Denver where I got suplexed onto the back of my head by a state champion wrestler from Idaho, and the same thing. I continued fighting in that fight, but like immediately when the fight was over, they started talking about this happened in the first round, this happened in the second round, and I said it went to the second round, and immediately they went to get the doctor, and by the time the ringside physician came back, I remembered what was going on and everything, and I'd come out of the concussion. But those those are my experiences. I would have to say that the second concussion, the one that happened at the gym, definitely the one where I was the most out of it, and I mean it lasted the longest. And I mean, of course, I was still getting hit while sparring, and so I mean that would probably contributed to the concussion going on longer. Um, uh,
Well, okay, because
but
my point was, I think it's safe to say you didn't know for sure if you were concussed, and you had memory loss, and you had some of the symptoms of concussion,
yeah,
right? And, okay, so I had two, and I was knocked out a couple times as a kid, and I don't really remember exactly what happened. And with mine, I don't remember all the details. Uh, if you're saying, and because this is where this became interesting for me, was I thought we were going to have maybe a disagreement for the first time. I didn't think I would ever disagree with you on much of anything, because we almost always agree on everything, life, MMA, and everything, everything we talk about, family, kids, whatever. And you, I think, said that I think like a mitigating circumstance for this guy. I don't even want to say his name because everybody's gonna find out in a second my position on this. It's not good for that for Quentin's son. But you felt like that he had a concussion and that his friends put him up to it. Would be mitigating circumstances to this,
so
uh, you know.
So I honestly don't know if this goes to court, which I mean it most likely will. I heard today that the Los Angeles Police Department is investigating. They haven't arrested him yet, but when and if it goes to court, I just don't know. It really depends on if he has seen a doctor in the last days since this has happened, and if the doctor can document that yes he was still having symptoms from the concussion, then I think that they could use that as a defense in court. Like I said, I'm still not saying that he wasn't responsible for his actions. One other thing, I worked with traumatically brain injured adults for 15 years, and I just remember seeing, when they got into trouble and things with the law, that a lot of times, they were treated, like, I don't know, almost like children, because of their traumatic brain injury. And some of them, I thought they could discern right from wrong, um, and that they should have faced penalties for their actions. And a lot of times it was, oh, just getting kicked out of the facility, and sometimes not even that, and sometimes no criminal charges, even when they had assaulted somebody else. Um, and I saw that many many times. I saw less serious things like traumatically brain injured clients shoplifting, and I remember having a talk with a security person and telling him, if you don't press charges against him, he's going to come back to this store eventually, and he's going to shoplift more. Because you're instilling in him that he can do this because he has this traumatic
Oh,
brain injury. So I mean, I'm coming at it from like multiple sides here, I think. because
Darn.
I
Yeah.
I feel like you know when you're still having issues from a blow you took 2 or 3 days before to the head, man, I almost feel like that is a traumatic brain injury. And like I said, I'm not saying he shouldn't face penalties and that they shouldn't be stiff penalties. I mean, it all really depends. I mean, prayers with the victim in this case, because you know, um, I I feel for that guy because that was one of the most brutal beatings I've ever seen, and I hope he makes it, and I hope he doesn't have any I mean, obviously he's going to have lasting effects from this. Uh, I don't think you take that many blows to the head when you're unconscious and don't have lasting effects. Plus, they've said that all of his teeth were not, or a lot of his teeth were knocked out, and that he was actually choking on his teeth while he was laying in the middle of the ring. I mean, really feel for the guy. Prayers for him that he does make a recovery and can, live a fairly normal life after all this. But man, it's just such a bizarre situation, and the fact the fact that people said, hey, that this training partner guy of his, that Andre, would encourage him to go with him to a pro wrestling event when he knew, I mean, they were supposed to do, he said in the live stream, and I think that the fact that this was live streamed will probably come into play in court, and it can be used on both sides. I mean, the fact that he's saying that morning, before, he ever even met Syko Stu and they had their run in the parking lot and all of that, he was talking about, throwing up multiple times that day and that his head was still really messed up. Uh, it makes me think that, you know, there's something more to that blow that he took to the head. Because why would you brag about that on your live stream, especially if you go back and you watch him getting kicked in the head? That his sparring partner at the time was much smaller than him. It just looks bad for him to be bragging about still having symptoms days later if he wasn't. So, I mean,
Okay.
go
Hey,
ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
can I respond?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think I can answer all of those. Uh, First of all, you said that was one of the most brutal beatings you've ever seen. It was 10 times worse than any brutal beating I've ever seen in my life. And I don't think you could name one that was a tenth as bad. Like, which one was even close?
I watch a lot of these police videos on YouTube from a video called Active Self-Protection. So I see a lot of, brutality and some of the most, depraved things that happen to people. Um, but, outside of that, I don't think I've seen, I mean, definitely not ever seen an MMA fight or anything like that, something that bad happen. Um, I mean, I was watching shows earlier today when they were talking about this, and they were showing, somebody slams somebody or somebody knocks somebody out with a blow, and then they hit them a couple more times while they're out. I mean, that's nothing.
A couple
Yeah,
more times.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
that's
seen that too.
nothing. That's nothing compared to what he did uh, to him.
Right.
It's
So
definitely,
this one was worse than anything you've even seen on the internet, right?
yeah.
You've never seen a policeman hit anybody 20 times when they were unconscious. You've never seen a good guy, bad guy. This is the worst, most violent. I can't even believe it's on the internet. So that I've ever seen on the internet, ever, by far. Except for if you shoot somebody, they put that out there for a minute, they kill him. The guy's dead. I've seen that. But to do this with your bare hands, this is by far the worst I've ever seen. So,
That's
number one, that's the first thing I would say. And then I would say it's not bizarre, it's criminal. Uh, and I would say when you said that his friend said you can go out there and really get him good, you can go out there, even if his friend said you can go out there and kill him. He knows that he can't. So, okay, so he still has to go to prison. And I'm thinking, just right off the bat, minimum 1 year per punch after the guy was unconscious, clearly unconscious. As far as the throw goes, picking that up, you know if he's going to land on his hip, on his back, on his butt, on his whole body, on his head. You see if his head hits the ground, you know your opponent's unconscious. He knew it, so he knew his opponent was unconscious. So, and then he hit him 20 some more times, as hard as he possibly could. That's as violent and as dangerous as it gets, and he'd never get out of prison. You know, that's, I would keep him away. And I feel bad for Quentin Jackson. I'm sorry for saying that, but I would keep him locked up. And I think if he was anywhere other than California, he'd be in jail right now. And even this, as liberal as the justice system is in the United States, how many people get away with things that shouldn't? I think this is pretty cut and dry. They have it on video. He did it. He planned it. He knew it. Like, even if the guy, the promoter said, go do it, he's still responsible to the point of 20, 40 years in prison. I don't know, like, we can argue that down. I guess lawyers can argue that down. But if it were up to me, you would first hit him with at least 40 years. And then you have to argue that. So, I mean, you feel like 40 years is too much, or that guy. And I want to borrow a term from MMA Guru. It sounds so bad when he says it, but I mean, everything. There's just no way you can pick somebody up, slam them down, and then pound their unconscious body until you're finally physically restrained by a bunch of fucking pussies that didn't do anything. They sat there and watched it happen. So I was just so bothered by it. I think that that Clinton's son should be in prison today. That's it. And then he can argue maybe mitigating circumstances. He was upset. He had a mild concussion and he was fine, going around doing his normal activities because of that or whatever. But I would give him almost no credit for that. I do 20 years minimum.
Like I said, if he hasn't already seen a doctor and they haven't, diagnosed him with, some sort of head injury from what happened days before, I don't know if he's going to even really be able to use it in court. Um, I don't know. It's like I said, I think it's a crazy situation,
He
and
looked totally conscious. He looked totally aware and conscious, and his movement, everything was fine. Nothing like the head injured patients that you deal with, Jeff. Not at all. None
yeah,
of those guys could do that. And this guy, all those, he's got too much problems in his head. It's just, you can't do it like that. The way the problems are in his head is revenge, just negativity. His dad knew it. Quentin knew it.
I don't know.
That's why he saved.
So
You know,
I have only
I don't
watched.
think Quentin Jackson's responsible though. I think one last thing I wanted to say on
Okay.
that is I don't think that he's responsible in any way. That he knew that he was subject to a lot of that crazy violence himself growing up, and he turned out okay. And he knows that you don't do that. And he sat there watching it. I saw the expression on his face. He knew he was on camera. The other thing was his son knew that he was on camera the whole time. And so did the victim, knew he was on camera when he hit him with the empty can. And the other thing just about that is you get very few points for that as the criminal in this situation because the victim put his hand on his head, drew his right hand back, and then pendulum swung it down on his head. I mean, it took 1.5 seconds or 1.4 seconds. I tried to time it, just in my head, but it was over a second. And I would move. Anybody would move. If you didn't know that was real, and you wouldn't lean into it the way he did. If you'd seen it in slow motion, he leaned into it. he
Huh.
would move.
I thought
And if you,
it looked to me like he grabbed him by the head and held his head in place when he hit him with the can. Um, I don't know. I mean, even after that happened, uh, Rampage's son was saying that it wasn't that hard of a blow, but it just made him mad. I just still, I come back to, if he's still having concussion symptoms and takes another blow to the head, maybe that triggered something in his brain. I just think the fact that he's talking about going out there and how he's going to knock this guy out, but the fact that he went so far, I haven't seen a ton of video of uh I haven't like watched his streaming thing. I've seen him like in a couple videos with his father, and he just didn't come across as like an overly violent, crazy person. And to me, what happened there makes me wonder that if it wasn't something related to the head the blow to the head, maybe he does have a head injury, and maybe that's why he just didn't have that compulsion to stop. Um, I don't know. To me, it's just such a strange thing to see. The brutality of it and the fact that he didn't have any thoughts of stopping. Um, man, it's are you still there, Tom? Okay, guys, so we had a little technical difficulty, but we're back. Um, Lost Tom for a second there. So I was
sorry about that.
saying,
I'm still here.
that just the fact that he was so brutal with the attack and didn't look like he had any intentions of stopping, that's another thing to me that makes me wonder if he doesn't have some sort of brain injury. I know we talk about CTE a lot on the show. Um, Man, it's so weird. And like I said, I haven't watched a ton of videos of Rampage's kid. I've seen him in maybe three total videos. I think one maybe a few months ago where Rampage was giving him a hard time because he wasn't eating meat or something like that. And then another one, which was the one like right after he got kicked in the head the other day, and Rampage was talking with him and telling people about how he got this concussion and stuff. And then, of course, the stuff from the other day. So, I mean, I don't have a background on this kid to say if he's an overly violent person. I did not get that impression from the earlier videos. Um, he seemed to be really out of it in that video from last week with Rampage after taking that kick. I know you didn't think it was that bad of a kick, but I've seen people take shots that didn't look that bad and be really messed up from them. Some people can just take a harder blow than others. Uh, maybe he doesn't have it's tough of a chin as his father does. Maybe that kick did really mess him up. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? You know, if they were to present in court a doctor saying, he had a head injury, because I mean, a concussion is basically a temporary head injury. Um, and depending on the degree of a concussion can be whether or not you have a traumatic brain injury with lasting effects afterwards. uh, what would you say if it was proven in court that he did have a traumatic brain injury? uh, would you let him off any easier? What do you think?
Um, yeah, because I have never really seen Vinton's son um, before this, and I didn't know that his internet presence wasn't necessarily positive, and if he, kind of felt that good on the internet and some sort of redemption, and decided this would be the time and place to do it, that could be the only possible way I could possibly reduce his know from getting concussions myself, the last time I would do something like that crazy and violent would be after one of those. The only thing I could do was just recover
When I
and pray.
when I think back to that
Nowadays,
when I think back to that third concussion I had, the fact that it happened in the opening seconds of the sparring session, and the fact that I was able to spar and, land a head kick, be on his back, choking him against, pretty skilled sparring partner. I have to say our sparring matches, you know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to say his name on here. Um, but our sparring matches in the gym, a lot of people would say it was basically like being at a all-out MMA fight. Later on, when we were older, we sparred a few times and like we actually had control and didn't try to murder each other. But I mean, um, the fact that I was able to continue for another round and a half while not knowing anything that was going on, and then afterwards I'm packing up my gear and I don't remember any of it, and we actually stopped because my sparring partner broke his hand hitting me in the forehead again. He broke his hand and he had to quit. I never was gonna quit sparring. I was gonna go for the rest of that round and at least one more, before we called it a night. um, but immediately after I'm packing up my gear, I'm looking at him and I'm asking why he's got an ice pack on his hand. And he's telling me, well, I punched you in the head and it broke my hand. And then, I threw my next piece of gear in my bag and I looked back at him and I said, so what'd you do to your hand? And I didn't remember that we had just had the conversation a couple seconds before, and we continued to have that same conversation because we both had the same ride home. So our friend, another training partner, drops him off at his house, and as he was getting out of the car, asked him the same question, "What'd you do to your hand?" And he's like, "I'll see you later." And then I got home, nobody was home, and I looked around my house, and I had no idea it was my house. And so I mean, I really didn't, like I said, I really didn't come out of that for 3 hours. Now, if you're talking days and you're in a state where you're still physically able to do things and you're saying things, but man, I just think if I gotta feel like, I don't know, I just don't think the people around him were very responsible for, this guy's got something definitely going on with him when he's throwing up days after in the morning and saying his head still hurts. Why are you trying to convince him, hey, let's go to this pro wrestling show, rather than trying to convince him to go to the hospital? It's crazy. And like I told you when we were texting about this earlier, it's that old saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Maybe Rampage's kid's future is in prison because of, the people he had around him weren't, you know, looking out for him and telling him, hey, don't do this, don't go to this thing. And I mean, then he's at the thing and they're encouraging him to do something violent. Yes, he definitely went beyond what anybody expected, but without that encouragement, would he have done it at all? I don't know. I don't know this kid's character. I only know what I've seen in a few short videos. So, um, like I said, I'm not justifying any of his actions. I'm just saying, man, it's a good lesson for kids. Don't, you know, don't give into that peer pressure. Um, but also there's the fact that I wonder if he was in the right state of mind, you know, and only if he did go see a doctor in the last couple of days, will we ever find that out? Um, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when and if it goes to court. Like I said, I hope Syko Stu recovers. It's a crappy thing that happened, um, but I man, I don't want to throw any blame at him, but hitting him in the head with the can, I, I don't. I know he thought he was another pro wrestler, and I don't know what the idea. I've watched videos where they've talked about the pro wrestling aspect of it and how people want other people to be able to like not flinch and stuff and make sure that they can, have actual reactions to what they're doing in the wrestling ring and that sort of thing. Um, I don't know. It's just, it's not a situation I think we'll ever see replicated because it's such a bizarre set of circumstances. And yes, I definitely agree what he did was criminal. I definitely think he should have penalties for it. I just don't know what those penalties should be. And like I said, I mean, I don't even know if he's got any criminal background before this. Um, I mean, if this was something that just came out of absolute nowhere, I think that in court they're going to be able to use the defense of the concussion to say, hey, this he wouldn't have done this otherwise. I don't know. Also, I hate to throw anything at Rampage because I know I don't want to kick the guy when he's down. But if you watch that video, and I'll put a link to the full video where they showed everything that led up to what happened and the aftermath. Um, but um, Rampage called him on the phone while he was ringside. And man, I don't think that conversation helped. I think that almost encouraged him. Um, Plus, I mean, it's another thing about our culture, he's live streaming, he's getting messages on this live stream, and people are telling him he's a wuss or whatever if he doesn't go hit this guy back for what he did. Um, Man, it's just everything is just so messed up. This situation. Um, it's hard. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
I guess so. I hope that he starts serving his time now. And I'm surprised that he's not already locked up. So he's got to go do some time and then get out. He gets out in a year. I don't see. I think California is super liberal, and they're going to wait and do whatever they do and get a little more money out of it. And they're billing every hour right now. I guarantee that there's already like millions of dollars investigation, which just means two detectives watched the video like 3 times, and that right there, we're going to get hit with like a $10 million bill. That's the investigation up till this point. And then they're going to do that for a couple more days, and then they're going to arrest him, I would hope, and then he'll bond out for $1 million, and then they'll have a trial. He'll spend, he'll either get guilty of some plea deal, or he'll get, not guilty if he's lucky of a more serious crime. But I don't know. That's what I would think would happen, and that's in the most liberal of all states and countries, unless I don't know, maybe Canada's more, but or other countries. But I just, to me, if you did this in 75% of the world, you'd be in big trouble. Like you wouldn't, yeah, you wouldn't have walked away from there. They would have put you in handcuffs, put you in a car, and taken you away. You did that on purpose, and that's it. He knew what he was doing. He was very clear-headed. He planned it. They showed it on video. And with friends instigating him, but that can only reduce it by so much. So fair enough, he gets a reduction because he was instigated by his friends. Or he was concussed, which I don't think he was because he couldn't have been able to do all the things that he did. And even if you did shortly after the concussion, you didn't kill anybody. And if you had, I would be thinking that there would be a level of responsibility for you too. But I don't know if you just went out of there and just, but if you went out of there after getting concussed, 2 or 3 days later, you did something like this, I would think that you were mostly responsible. But, if you did that within the first hour or two, I would say maybe he wasn't of his right mind. But if you, 2, 3 days later, and you've been breathing and eating and going to the bathroom and everything's fine, and you take a job intentionally for money, you have the clarity of thought to do that. And you keep asking, when can I get him? When can I get him? And then you go and knock him unconscious with one big throw, and the guy's back is turned. You see his head hit the ground. Nobody's unconscious. And you punch him in the face as hard as you can, 20 some times. You get a minimum of 1 year per punch.
No,
That's what I would say. So 25 years, 23 years in prison.
no.
And they can argue that down or up. And I'm, the only reason he's not in jail today is because they're trying to get more money out of the investigation.
So a couple things. So in the video, I know he was talking about, knocking him out, but I don't think he ever said, I'm gonna hit this guy, over and over and over and over again. Um, so I don't know. I know, yeah, he was definitely planning on picking him
He
up
knew
and
it.
slamming him.
If
I don't.
Jeff, if he'd have said that, they would have said no. They would have said no way. Okay, I'm going to have to just use the word that MMA Guru does, and I can't even take this word. He kept referring to Quentin's son as a dumb animal. And they said the people around him didn't know he was just a dumb animal. Maybe that's his problem. Sorry, but fuck, that's it. Are you that
Yeah.
fucking stupid that you're just gonna fucking go kill the guy in front of us? And even if we gave you a license and we wrote it down on a piece of paper that says you now have a license to go kill him, and he did it, he still has to go to prison.
The other thing, I know you said that he took a job and everything, but I I never got the impression, I watched that entire video, I never got the impression that he was supposed to be going there to in any way participate until the whole thing with the can happened in the parking lot. Um, I I got the impression he was just going to watch, that he was supposed to be sitting up front watching, not in any way participating in the thing until the incident with the can happened, and then everybody around him pretty much encouraged him to, jump in during the match, and that they would use this as
And
what
then
way, yeah.
I would say I don't believe that he's the slowest athlete on the planet. And you have to go back and replay the can incident where Stu, I'm sorry, um, I don't even know his name,
Syko
but
Stu.
Syko Stu, if he puts his hand on my head, his left hand, and then he draws his right hand back, I already am moving. Yeah, that's it.
That's
He put his left hand on top of his head, palms out, fingers out. You can see it on the tape. He didn't grab his hair and hold him so that he was restrained and could move. Actually put the palm of his hand about 2 inches above his head. That's the signal. You're about to get hit. Get ready. That's it.
do you
And then he swung the can on a pendulum style technique. You wouldn't do that either. If you're really going to hit him as hard as you can, you'd throw it more straight. You wouldn't swing it all the way up overhead as high as possible. You have it come down on top of his head, a broken, what looked like just a drop glass.
I don't know, the fact that he didn't move his head, do you think that, I mean, that almost to me could be used as evidence that there was something wrong with him prior to that, you know? I mean, why wouldn't he have moved? Um,
I would argue because he knew that the pro wrestler was going to throw it light. I mean, to me, I would compare a mosquito landing on my forehead versus like me stomping on an unconscious man as hard as I could, or punching an unconscious man as hard as I could 25 times in the face.
But he didn't know him before, that moment. So, I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing with
No,
that
I think
can.
that was for the show. I don't even know, but even if he didn't know, I don't think it matters.
I don't know.
I mean,
Everything was videoed up to that moment, though.
I think,
I don't
it
know.
was planned.
I don't think that
I think it was all planned, except for when Quentin's son went crazy. When he went crazy, that's when it became criminal.
I don't know how much was planned, though. That's the thing. To me, from everything I've seen, he went there as a spectator to watch Andre, his friend, or AJ, whatever his name was, uh, and training partner, had encouraged him to come to this event and gotten him tickets to sit up front and watch. I don't think he was going to participate. And, even if he was, there was no rehearsal of what he was supposed to do. I assume pro wrestlers have to have a script and rehearse what they're doing, and I saw no indication of anything like that in any of the videos I've seen.
You know what I think the script was this. They're going to confront each other, Quentin's son and Syko Stu, and then Syko Stu is going to hit him over the head with a prop can, and then after that, you're going to get your revenge in the ring. You can go out there and get him. And it's not really planned out exactly. It's just like, oh, we got Quentin Rampage's son here. He said he's going to go in there and play along for $3,000. So let's do it.
But
but they didn't know that Quentin's son is absolutely had that rage in his head. He was willing to do that. Because of that, I think there should be consequences, and it should be a certain amount of years.
But I mean,
until maybe they can, maybe through good behavior, he could get out much earlier. But he has to be locked up today.
Yeah.
You can't let him walk around, because I'm worried. I think he might do something else before he's actually arrested. Don't you think?
I don't know. To me, the whole conversation in the parking lot with all the pro wrestlers there did not indicate that he was in any way part of any kind of plan. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it, I guess. But I've seen tons of videos, and to me, he was going there as a spectator to watch. He was buddies with the one pro wrestler who took him and introduced him to a bunch of the others in the parking lot. We're out back of where the event was occurring. I'm not exactly sure. It seemed like it was a parking lot out back, away from most of the other spectators.
Sorry, but I don't give any credit to that either, because if you knew how many of my friends tried to get me to do crazy stuff, I'm still alive and I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
I never tried to kill anybody.
I don't think that anything was pre-planned as far as him being involved with this wrestling promotion. I think he was just going there as a spectator to watch, and he got introduced to people in the back.
Of making money. I think he went there with the opportunity of making money, even if it wasn't planned. Maybe it was planned 24 hours before.
I haven't seen anything to indicate that. The only thing I could see him making money off of was that fact that everything was being live streamed on his personal live stream thing. I don't know. I think I even saw a video where he was out front before everything happened, trying to get into the venue, and they didn't know him, and they didn't know anything about how he was supposed to be getting in for free. I don't know.
No, yeah, I don't know. But if either side admitted that they planned, I think they better be real careful with this. If either side admitted that they planned any of this, that could be used against them. So I'm thinking both sides would probably keep their mouth shut at this point. And to me, it looks like Quentin's son did it all. Looks like the other guy was running the show, and had an opportunity to bring in a star's son, and it did, and the son went crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. It definitely, definitely went crazy. Definitely, I don't, I don't,
That's worse than the
I just don't know if I believe that he was thinking when he was sitting there, doing his whole live stream thing and talking. I don't think he had the thought in his head that I'm going to go out, I'm going to slam him, and I'm going to hit him over and over and over and over again.
1,000% he did. 1,000% he
Man,
did.
that's the one with the only spot I'm going to disagree on is I do think he planned on slamming him and hitting him once or twice. I don't think he thought he would knock him out with the slam, considering the fact that pro wrestlers get slammed over and over all the time. And they did talk about that he was going to come in during the match. Um, you know, man, it's so weird. It's just such a strange situation that, like I said, I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again because so many weird things happened leading up to it. Um, I mean, I've never even been to a pro wrestling show. I've been to a lot of MMA competitions. I've been to tough man competitions and, small stuff that, took place in bars. Um, I've never seen anything remotely like this. I mean, I remember a fight up in Denver where we had I was in the back getting ready. It was a Ring of Fire up in Denver, and I was getting ready to fight Christian Allen, and uh, I was supposed to fight right after the intermission, and there were some, miscommunications about when the intermission was going to be, and then a fight broke out. I believe it was one of John Kronk's cornermen got in a fight with somebody else in our warm-up area, which was just, a curtain off, I don't know, maybe 30 by 30 area, if that. And this guy punched another guy and ran out the door, and security chased him out, and I don't even know if they ever caught the guy, but, that was they delayed the event for a few minutes because of that. But, for anything I don't remember anything remotely close to this ever happening at any event I was ever at. Um, even a fight outside the ring or anything like that. I'm trying to think. Um, there was something that happened in the World Combat League where a guy had an aneurysm after the fights, and the guy from our team was going to confront that guy and challenge him to another match anywhere. And then, like, when he went out to challenge him, the guy just collapsed and had an aneurysm in his brain. And luckily, the ambulance hadn't left yet, and they took the guy straight to the hospital, and the guy survived. But that could have been a situation where, the guy was really mad because he was undefeated and he had just lost to this guy and he was going to confront him. And man, I don't think there was anybody security-wise that could have stopped this guy because he was huge if he had gone after him outside the ring. But, nothing ended up happening because the guy had this medical event right there, right after the event got over. I've just never heard of anything like this happening before. It's so strange, so weird. I don't know. Can you even remember, being at an event where something off the wall crazy happened that wasn't planned?
No, I've never seen attempted murder right before my eyes. And I would have tried my best to stop it, or I would have run and called the police. So no, nothing like this that I've ever seen.
And like you said, it was definitely. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say I'm sorry for not knowing Syko Stu's name. I was so riled of this whole thing that I didn't even learn his stage name. And I don't even know his real name. But I saw that he was a
believe it's Stuart Smith is his full name.
Stuart Smith.
And I did
Okay.
I did see the post from his brother today saying that he's in stable but still critical condition. That's another bizarre thing was how long it took those other wrestlers to jump in the ring and restrain Jackson during the assault. And then, man, you can't see it on. I don't know if there's video of what happened, but one of the other wrestlers actually jumped. Did you
You can
hear?
even stop a 169er.
Yeah.
An 0 and 1 169er, by the way.
I didn't even know what his record was.
Yeah, his record is 0 and 1. He's an 0 and 1 169er. They were all scared.
So I don't know. Did you hear about the one of the other wrestlers actually jumped on Syko Stu while he's laying on the ground unconscious and covered him, and then the referee, who moments earlier was trying to pull, unsuccessfully, pull Rampage's kid off of him, actually, tapped the mat like, "Oh, you pinned him," or whatever. I mean, that
was weird. They were all scared.
That's
I
crazy.
wouldn't know what to do either.
Yeah.
In that situation, like, I think I would have done better. I would have actually jumped on the bad guy, but again,
it's
I've done that
such
in
a
my life.
crazy.
I've experienced that, so I know what I would have done. But they
It's
were not, they all froze, and then they just sort of half engaged, like a little one-handed touch, and keep away just in case. They were all scared.
the one guy, the bigger of the pro wrestlers, grabbed him and was actually holding him back, and I think that's what finally got him out of the ring there. But man, like I said, it's such a bizarre situation. They said he was actually that he was actually choking on his teeth, man. I mean, like I said, it's such a brutal attack that's what makes me wonder: is this kid in his right mind? That's what I mean. And I'm not a soft on crime guy whatsoever. I've seen my share of criminal activity around this small town I live in, and I'm definitely not a soft on crime person. And like I said, I'm still not saying that they should go easy on Jackson. I'm just saying that I think maybe they do need to investigate and see, if there's something wrong with his brain. Because I mean, just for him to do this out of nowhere. Like I said, I'd be interested in saying I should have researched and seen if he does have a criminal background before this. I don't know. But I mean, if this is the first thing this kid's ever done, you know, it's crazy. I mean, you usually see somebody do something bad and then it escalates and it escalates and it gets worse and worse. And like I said, I even saw that with traumatically brain injured people. They would do something one day, and if they did get and have any consequences for what they did, it would escalate and it would get worse, and then it would get worse, and then it would get worse. And in a lot of those cases, I still felt that they were responsible for what they did, even though they had a traumatic brain injury. But in the same regard, the police are hesitant to charge somebody with a traumatic brain injury with a felony and try to put them in jail, because what's that person going to be able to do in jail if they have a traumatic brain injury and they lived in a facility because of it? I mean, they're probably not going to be able to be in general population in a prison. So, and then, plus you have the fact that once you get to court and it comes out that this person's got traumatic brain injury, is it even going to go anywhere from there? And
I don't think he's not traumatic brain injured.
I don't know.
Violent. But he just did it. I don't think he. Yeah, so put him behind bars, and then in a perfect world, you lock him up. You don't try to make money off of it like the state of California is doing. And then you just keep them away from people for a while, talk to them, and like you said, if you want to MRI his brain or whatever, you would want to do it now.
Yeah.
not later. So you have to
Yeah.
get him in
Like I
custody.
said, if they want to use that in court at all, he needs to have seen a doctor, since.
No way he didn't see a doctor.
Yeah,
Why?
if he hasn't
Exactly.
seen a doctor since, they're not gonna really, it's not gonna stand up in court
No
if
way he saw
he
a
hasn't
doctor. You
seen a
know,
doctor since then.
if he saw a doctor and the MRI results favored him, he would have released them.
Yeah,
So
those MRI
there's no way he
results
didn't see a doctor.
I- those results would take a few days though, and we're at what? This is
Not like
Monday.
this.
Yeah,
The whole world is watching. Everybody in the world is watching right now. People are so upset about this. Like, what I've seen, public opinion is like 99 to 1. Like, everybody says hang him. Like, I haven't heard anything different. But, and it's not, that's what I think. And I thought about it for a couple of days. When I first saw it, I thought, oh God, you know, you know, put a rope, put a rope around his neck. But then I thought, well, you have to try him first. And I thought, okay, relax, don't kill him, but lock him up today, and then keep him there, and then see if he can do good behavior. And in a period of time, maybe he can qualify for good behavior. So that's what I was saying. And neither one of us want him around our island. That is straight out of fucking shining. Like if that motherfucker had an axe, put it through that guy's chest. Or, he went to what he knows, which is his version of MMA. But I swear, it just seems so scary. That guy, Jeff, you and I would never do that. We wouldn't have even slammed him so hard. And we wouldn't have slammed him intentionally on his head. Never, never would I do that to somebody. Never would I do that. And if I did that, I would back off immediately. No way. I mean, if the game is pretend punch him, then I'll jump to the mount. I'll check on him and pretend like I'm going to punch him. Then I'll throw some pretend punches. But that motherfucker hit him as hard as he possibly could. Prison. 1 year every punch. He knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think that he knocked down, but he kicked in the face several days before counts as a mitigating circumstances.
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I want to see, what happens in the next few days if he is arrested. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully we get a good update on Syko Stu and he's, recovering and getting better and able to talk in the hospital. Um, but, I mean, it's I don't know. There's nothing really else I can say about it. It's a very unfortunate, crazy situation. And like I said, man, I'm not saying he's not responsible. I'm just saying that I don't know what I'm saying really. It's just such a weird thing.
I think he better hope. He better hope he gets arrested. You know, he's justice. There's people out there that will shoot that guy. But I think that they're hopefully keeping the down low profile. He's never really going to be able to show his face publicly without there being a threat to his life. But that's right. I think he can't ever show his face ever again. He has to serve time first. Or you would know that's the most violent felon I've ever seen by far.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody worse, unless you talk about killing people with guns and knives, then it's the next level, but he's the worst. Never seen anything like it. I guess the lesson that I think should be learned is the internet or Kicks or YouTube or any of the platforms that are showing this shouldn't show it. It disturbed me greatly, and I've seen these things. And I know I've been cheap shotted by fighters and have been injured and had problems because of it, and that's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Thank God, thank you God, nothing like that. Nobody ever did that to me, but that motherfucker belongs in prison. Lock him up, and then we'll talk in a period of time. You know, lock him up, test him, whatever you want to do, but keep him out of society. He's not safe. Not safe.
Like I said, I definitely think there's some lessons to be learned for kids out there. You know, number one, choose your friends wisely. If people are telling you to do really stupid things, you know, don't do it. And number two, you know, just the whole internet. I mean, I know we're filming a podcast right now, but you know, people want to be so famous and they want all these clicks and all these views. And I think that's kind of contributing to a lot of the bad things that are happening in society, all these challenges and dares and all this crap you see where kids are doing stuff because they saw some dare on some video. Um, and they want to be famous and they want to film it. I mean, I've heard about people doing videos where they like break into people's houses just to break into people's houses on video and see their reaction and stuff. I mean, that's insane. And there's so much of this crazy stuff going on in our society right now. Um, don't let somebody on the internet tell you what to do. Don't let some other kids tell you what to do, or your friends tell you what to do. If friends are telling you to do something really stupid, they're not your friends. Um, that's one of the main takeaways I have from this. Yes, what he did was totally wrong. Um, but yes, he was also being encouraged by those friends to do it. And man, crappy friends. Uh, I don't know. It's just, it's such a weird situation. Make smart choices, guys. I had a traumatically brain injured client, and he used to say that he took full responsibility for the irresponsibility that put him in a wheelchair. And I always thought that was a really profound statement. And, you know, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy who's in prison because he did something stupid. Uh, you don't want to be the guy who's, you know, forever living with a traumatic brain injury because he did something stupid. And there's things you can't come back from, you know. Like, who knows if Jackson's kid is ever going to be able to, you know, come back from this. You know, he could go to prison, he could get find God and, you know, come back a different person. I definitely feel like everybody can be redeemed, but there are things, you know, in life that we do, those consequences will come back and get you for the rest of your life. And I remember seeing people that said, I just want to go out and live a normal life, but because of what they've done in the past, they can't because they don't have the physical and mental ability to do that anymore. And so I just mainly one thing I want to say, you know, before we finish this up is think about the things you do, guys. And, you know, don't be influenced by people around you to do stupid things. Find good influences and make good choices. Um, and that's pretty much all I want to say. You got anything else you want to add, Tom?
No, I agree. I hope you guys, to anybody listening, you know, think about sure, don't do anything stupid, crazy, violence, ever. So, you know, think about your future. That's
All right. Well, that's going to be the end of our show. We said we were going to do like 10, 15 minutes, and we've gone an hour and 5 minutes. We'll be back eventually with another show. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Tom's having some issues with surgeries he's got to have for injuries. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that, Tom, but I just want to say I'm glad we did this show. I'm glad we talked about this situation. Um, like I said, prayers with Syko Stu that he is able to make a recovery from this. Um, and also, prayers. I know you don't like the guy, but I I hope that Raja Jackson can turn his life around and not do anything like this ever again. And who knows, maybe someday he can be an example, in a positive way for people. Um, I don't know. There's people who've done really horrible things who later on in life have turned around and helped people and done things to make the world a better place. So maybe he can do that too. It all remains to be seen, and I guess we'll see what happens in the news in the next few days. So I guess that's it for today. Anything else, Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully, if Quentin's son gets his shit together and turns this into a positive, that would be great. I'm all for that. And yeah, I have to have a shoulder surgery next, which is why I'm kind of gonna take a break from this podcast, and then I'm gonna get that surgery and pray that it gets a little better. So I didn't really want to talk about that, but that's just the next surgery. I have a couple others orthopedic surgeries coming up. So hopefully positive thoughts come this way, and also towards Quentin's son. I think that say other than I think he should be held responsible for what he did. That that I would wish punishment on him for it. I wouldn't want just whatever I guess God or whatever nature says. I don't feel like that was really bad. So that's it. So yeah, that's I guess my final message. Thanks for listening.
All right, thanks, Tom, and thanks everybody that listen. If you have an opinion on this, definitely post a comment. Um, Maybe I may come back with some solo shows while Tom's out and talk about a few things. We'll see. Um, but that's going to be it for tonight. So everybody have a great night. Stay safe, make smart decisions, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.